Let's say that you're laying in bed, you're a single person, especially a single female, but this can apply to males as well. But you're in bed and you have a little alarm that goes on your door handle that is a magnetic. It's if somebody were to touch the outside or the opposite side of the door handle, the alarm would sound. So let's say you're in bed and you've just drifted off into a nice deep sleep, and all of a sudden your alarm goes off, the alarm that's on the door, which means somebody has touched the handle from the other side, and you don't know what to do. So you're laying there and you're frozen in fear because this alarm continues to go off. What would you do? So I'm Kat, and welcome to my channel, Living Solo, Living Well. I'm still a little bit hoarse because I have a ton of allergies, and this is the Middle Tennessee area, so it's known for causing problems for allergy sufferers. So let's say that you were in that scenario. So I was, and I had just moved into my new house. So I bought these alarms because I worked at a nursing company where we had a police officer come in and he talked about safety. So I purchased one of these devices. You hang it on the door, you have batteries in it. And if somebody were to touch the other side of it, the door handle, it would, it's some kind of a magnetic thing that causes it to start to alarm. So let's say, well, in my situation, it happened. So I'm laying there and in this brand new house, not a brand new house, but a new house to me that's fairly good size. And all of a sudden there's the alarm going off. You don't know what to do. What would you do? So first of all, I laid there and I froze, and I'm thinking, who's in my house? Just like, you see in the movie, somebody's in the house. So I ended up, I waited, I was scared, and then I thought I was determined. And so I got up and I went over to the door. I unlocked my bedroom door because I slept with it locked. And I opened the door really quick. Nobody was there. So I searched the entire house. I pulled the attic stairs down. I peeked up there with the light, didn't see anything. And I thought, okay, it was just a fluke. So I went back to bed. And a little bit later, the same thing happened. So I did the same search, and the doors were locked outside on the exterior doors. So I went back to bed. I deactivated it at that moment. So I went back to bed, and darn it if it didn't do it a third time. So by the third time, I knew it was just a malfunctioning device. So, but my point is that I live alone. At that time, I was alone as well in a new house that I didn't get a good feel for it initially because I hadn't lived here, before. So anyway, I ended up getting, not using that device anymore. I just locked my bedroom door, and I had to just not worry about things. When you're a single female and you're living solo, there are things that you're going to worry about that you probably wouldn't worry about if you're married. I know when I was married, I didn't have this issue of thinking about what if somebody breaks into my house, or what if there's a peeping Tom outside, or some weird thing like that would put my safety in jeopardy. So what would you do? What are the things that you're fearful of as you're living solo, especially if you're a female? But I'd love to hear what the men think as well. So another issue that I had was one evening after probably a year or so after I moved here. It was a summer evening. I was in the kitchen and I heard my dog just going crazy at the front door. When I had that issue with the device on my bedroom door handle, I didn't have a dog yet, so there was no dog to bark. But this particular night, my dog went crazy at the front door. So he was a big 90-pound dog. And I went to the door and I peeked out. I have a curtain, a little roll down shade. So I looked out and there were two police officers standing on my front porch. So I also, to make sure they were legit, I did see their police vehicles out there, one in the road, one in the driveway. So I opened the door, but I had to watch my dog so he wouldn't get out. And I held my foot between the door, but I pushed the door so the dog wouldn't be able to go outside. And he was going crazy, barking, barking. And so I ended up, was asking them, can I help you? And they said they had somebody that called them and their phone pinged from my address. And this person said that, this woman said that there was somebody ringing her doorbell. And at that time, my battery for my doorbell went out, so I had not replaced it yet. So it never worked. And so I told them, I said, my doorbell doesn't even work. And I pushed the button to show them it wouldn't ring. So then they said, well, are you sure you didn't call? And I said, I'm positive. There was no issue. Nobody's been ringing my doorbell. So I stepped out on the front porch with them and we chatted for a little bit. And they were saying that her phone number pinged at my address. So I don't know how that could be. It's kind of confusing to me. So it made me a little uneasy. But I remember when they left, they said, are you okay? And I said, yes. I said, do you want to come in and look around? They said, no, that's fine. Are you okay? And I said, I'm fine. Nobody's here. And they said, okay, call us if you need us. And I said, I sure will. So a little while later, I got to thinking, was there somebody hiding around my wooden privacy fence for her number to ping at my address? And I also wondered about if there would be somebody under my deck or even in the crawl space of my house around back. And I did call dispatch back and I asked them if I needed to have an officer come out and look in these areas. And she said, no, everything was fine. So I still was a little uneasy that night when I went to bed, but it ended up, nothing was wrong. There was nothing going on nefarious. So, and then there were a couple other issues as living as a solo person. Things kind of become bigger in your mind, I think, than they actually are, at least for me. And it may be true for you guys as well. But this one evening in the summer when I had been here probably several months, and the way my house is in the front, there were a lot of windows. So I was sitting in my recliner one evening, summer evening, and it was still light out. So I saw a car go up my road. So I saw them through one set of windows, and I turned my head to see if they were continuing down the road because I could see out the other set of windows. And I didn't see them go by. So somewhere between my windows, looking out both sets of windows, was their car. So I went to the front door and I peeked out, and there was a man getting out of his car. He's parked on the road between the ends of my circle driveway, so I couldn't see him where I was sitting. And he gets out of his car and he starts to walk to my driveway. And I immediately put my hand up and said, no trespassing. And he said, oh, I was just going to ask you about your alarm system, because he saw my sign advertising that I had an alarm system. So again, I said, no trespassing. And I said it more firmly. So I still had my hand out, like this, like no trespassing. And he walked further or closer to me, to my house, down my driveway. And he had a clipboard. He had like a decent pair of slacks on and a nice dress shirt. And he had this official looking clipboard. So he's coming towards the house. And again, I said, I will call the police if you come any further. So he said, okay, got back in his car, took off. So I did call the police, and I told them that he was going, he came to my door. I didn't know if he was going door to door. So they came out, just drove through the neighborhood to keep an eye out for, anything going on. So that was a scary thing to me, because he resisted when I first said no. So my command, no trespassing, he resisted my command, and he eventually left, but I had to say it 3 times. So what man or person, if they're coming to the house of a single female, or at least a female that's standing outside, he didn't know if I was married or single, and what male will keep advancing when a female says no trespassing? So I felt like he was not legit. Maybe I'm wrong with that, but nothing ever came of it. So it ended up there was never any issue. But for me, living alone as a single female, I I just I don't like people coming over unannounced, like people I don't know. I don't mind friends popping in, but I'd rather they call. But this person just showed up, and that just made me a little uneasy. So there was another time, and I don't know that this made me as uneasy, but my dog, my male dog that I had years ago, one day I got out of the shower and I was coming up the hall to see if he wanted to go outside. So I was getting ready just for the day, and he starts barking crazy at the door. And it was a bark that kind of indicates, I will eat you up if you come in my house. So I peeked around the corner and I saw a lady at the door. Now I wasn't dressed to answer the door, so I kind of ducked out of sight, and my dog just kept barking and barking. If I were somebody at the door and there was a dog barking at me, I think I'd turn around. If it was that loud, I wouldn't stand and continue knocking on the door. It's enough to scare you away, at least for me anyway. So this lady stayed and knocked and knocked. So eventually she quit knocking. I kind of tucked away behind a chair where she couldn't see me. And then when everything went silent, he quit barking, she quit knocking. So I peeked out and I didn't see her car out the window in my driveway. So I thought, okay, good, we're safe. And as I got up and walked where I was in view of the front door, because I have a glass front door, but it has like beveled and leaded areas, so you can see in a little, but it's a little distorted maybe. So anyway, as I walked in view of the door, she starts knocking again and my dog starts barking. I had grabbed a blanket off my chair and threw it around me. And by this point, I was not happy, because if nobody answers, go away. That's how I think you should do. So I went up to the door and through the glass with the blanket on, I said, "Can I help you?" And she said, "Oh, I'll just come back another time." And I said, "No, don't come back." So what prompted her to, when she saw me wrapped up in a blanket versus my dog going crazy, trying to get out the door to attack her? So that wasn't a scary thing to me, but the nerve of somebody to continue when nobody answers the door or the dog is barking, it was a scary bark. So that's something that made me a little uneasy, probably more mad than fearful. I wasn't fearful at all with that. But another instance of something that, it didn't make me afraid, but I had sold something on Marketplace and the lady was supposed to come by at a certain time. We communicated, she responded very well. Everything was it seemed like a normal person buying something. So I had a male friend come over because I didn't want to be here by myself with a stranger coming in the house. And this was a big piece, a big item. So it wasn't something I could just drag out onto the porch and let her do a porch pickup. So my friend was here. I messaged that woman earlier that morning, about 6 hours earlier, and confirmed that she was still picking up the item. So I didn't hear back, and I thought, well, she's at work or busy. So that evening, she was supposed to be by at 6 o'clock, and it was about 5:45 or 5:30, and I texted her and I said, "Hey, are we still on for today?" I heard nothing. My friend got here. Meanwhile, he's here, we're waiting. She didn't respond to my messages, and she never showed up. So about 30 minutes later, I gave him the go-ahead to leave, because at that point I was done. If she came by late, she wasn't getting it, but she had my address. So that's what made me a little worried, because I feel like she was a scammer. Somebody just set me up to not show up. And I don't know why people do that, but she was very responsive initially, and then she wasn't after a certain point. So my I guess uneasiness came from her having directions to my house for a pickup. And that really bothered me. So when I went to bed that night, it was really hard to sleep. I really had a hard time. And I tossed and turned all night because every little sound, I thought she's coming to attack me, or whoever it is, some guy or whatever. I was just fearful that somebody would come in the house because they had my address. So I have learned now to be really cautious and to make sure that I don't give my address out. I will do a meetup for them to pick up something. If it is a big item, like recently I sold, what did I sell? I sold something really large, and I did have someone here. I had the person that wanted to purchase it. I had given them my address, but it was during the daytime, and I referred to my friend as my husband because I wanted them to think I was married and I had somebody else here, or multiple other people here. So the fear I have is that it's going to be a scammer type of person that wants to do some harm. And it's hard when you're selling stuff on eBay, or not eBay, but Marketplace. I did sell some things on eBay, but I don't do that anymore. But on the Marketplace, it's easy to get sucked in and not know who the scammers are. And there are people that have bad things in mind, and that's the scary part. So where do you draw the line? Do you give out your address for somebody to pick up something, or what do you do? How do you handle that? So I just wondered what do you all do to stay safe? Do you have fears that somebody's up to no good, or are you fearful of living alone? Do you live in a safe area? Do you have like a speed dial of somebody that you can call right away? I do, but when I wake up in the middle of the night, if somebody's coming in, I don't know how my mindset will be. Am I going to be of the mindset to think to grab my phone and search for whoever to call, my contact, or 911? So anyway, I hope you guys stay safe and that you're enjoying being solo and that you're living well. So have a great day, and I will see you on the next video.